Sounds good.
Okay, kids, it's time for another episode of the Fueled by Weird podcast, the only podcast that's smarter than the smarties and tougher than the toughies. I'm Chris Daly, and today I have the pleasure of chatting with writer Jonathan Hedrick. John, how's it going, man?
Good. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here Saturday morning.
Likewise, man.
Yeah, man. All right, so usually on the show, when I'm meeting someone for the first time, we like to kick things off with an icebreaker question.
Yeah.
So today's icebreaker question is, what Netflix show did you binge watch embarrassingly quickly?
Ooh, embarrassing quickly. The first one that comes to mind is what was it, Tiger King? Is that what it
Mm,
was called? Like at the very beginning of the pandemic and
yeah.
quarantine. Man, I was never did I feel so connected to society while being isolated from society at the same amount of time. But yeah, that thing pulled me in. It just so Oh, it was like watching a slow 10 car pile up. You know? Oh man, how have they not done like a follow-up on that one? I'm sure like there's material out there. And I've heard that there was like they're gonna do a movie too. But yeah, that was what I embarrassed shamefully binge watched very quickly. That's a
Nice.
good icebreaker.
Thanks, man. I think for me it was well, several. But the one I can remember is Umbrella Academy. I'm a big
Ah, yes.
I'm a big
Yeah.
fan of the books, and so as soon as it came out, I
Well,
was all the way through it so
I
quick.
w- I wouldn't even say that would be a shameful thing, or
That's
embarrassing thing.
true.
That's like, that's a great thing to have binge watch. And of all the garbage that's out there, that's something that's like that's quality right there. So,
That's
yeah,
fair.
good on you for binging
That's
that.
I binge way too much stuff. It's
Uh,
bad.
I wish I could binge more. That's the thing. I have to be very selective with the amount of timing that I have. I get about maybe
Yeah.
an hour at most of television time, and that's usually like, me and my wife. So it's like we're yeah, I'm probably giving you way more information than
No,
the viewers
you're
even
good.
or listeners will even want to know. But
You're good.
we watch together. That's trying to have quality time. So it can't just be me what I want to watch, and it can't just be garbage. Some of it is garbage, I guess, but it's got to be something that we both want to see that we're both invested in. So
I I get that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, the reason I'm able to binge so much stuff is because it just happens to be stuff my wife wants to watch too. So I get it.
That's yeah, yeah.
It's harder to binge the stuff just that I want to watch, just because,
Right.
if the wife doesn't want to watch it and the kids don't want to watch it, I got to watch it whenever there's
Yeah.
time that's just me, which it's summer vacation for now, so that's
Right.
very little time I have for myself. But when
Mm,
I do, I kind of just sneak those shows in for myself. But yeah,
yeah.
if I can, the more people I can get on board watching it with me, then
Yeah.
the more of a chance I'm going to be able to binge through it.
Exactly. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I would love to binge through Better Call Saul, but that would require,
Mm,
going, having her going through Breaking Bad, which I
yeah.
wouldn't mind, rewatching all that for like the third time. But it's an investment in time,
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, fortunately, that's a factor of everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
Hmm.
All right. So the next question is, with Fueled by Weird, all the things you're into, whether they're nerdy or not, all
Yeah.
your hobbies, your interests, that's the stuff that fuels who you are, and what fuels your weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be nerdy things. Um, just the things that you're into. So when you're not making comic books, and not binging stuff on Netflix,
Right. Yeah.
what kind of things are you into?
Man, I'm really big into like the tattoo culture. As you can
Oh, nice.
see, I have two sleeves, and would love to have more. Um, I'm one of those people that because I have tattoos, I don't like to like talk to people about tattoos by like looking at them.
Ah,
So
mm,
one thing, kind of circling back to the binging, one of the things that my wife and I watch is the reruns of Ink Master because there's so
mm,
many seasons of that.
yeah,
Um, what's so great about that show too is you learn a lot about art in general, not just tattoo art, but they put these competitors, these tattoo artists, in these challenges that are outside of what they're used to doing, like sidewalk chart chalk art, and making like a mosaic with thumbtacks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And uh, as a comic book creator, especially a writer who doesn't have very many you know traditional artistic skills, I learned a lot from that show and tattoos in general about color theory and shading and composition. And I think that's actually has helped to segue into comic book writing in a way, especially when it comes to art direction,
Yeah.
and what I'm looking for, on a page, on a panel, on a cover. So I guess I kind of cheated with answering that question, kind of
No, that's
looped it
exactly what
into
I'm looking
comics.
for.
But yeah, I love tattoo culture in general, the history of it. I think it's just an amazing art form, and I'm so happy that we live in a time now, especially in America, where it's even more acceptable. Where I'm not sure where you're located, but one of the biggest grocery store chains we have here in the Southeast is Publix. And when I worked for them, dude, you couldn't have a beard, you couldn't have tattoos showing. Now people have beards. You go in, they got dyed colored hair, they got the tattoos are showing. I think that's so great because makes the world less of a stuffy place. We can get a lot more individuality in culture, day to day that way.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm.
I'm actually in on the West Coast. So I'm well, not the
Okay.
coast, but like the Northwest. So I'm in Idaho. Um,
Okay. Yeah, you
so
guys don't got Publix out there.
we don't. I've heard of it, but we don't have it. But I'm familiar with that though, because I don't have sleeves currently,
Mm,
but I
mm,
do have a few tattoos. Looking
yeah.
to hopefully get more soon.
Right.
Um, but I used to work at a place where long beards like this were very,
Frowned upon.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the facial hair you've got currently right now was kind of like that's about
Okay.
as far as you can go. And I
Yeah.
used to kind of keep mine short like that. And
Mm,
I've got a couple of forearm tattoos that
mm,
if I didn't have covered up, I'd always get like the look like, oh, you're one
yeah.
of those guys. You have
Right.
like I interviewed for an internal position there, and the entire time I was interviewing, the person just looked at my tattoos like they weren't even listening to my answers, and I'm like, all right, I
Unbelievable.
let's just cut this interview short because I know where this is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. And that was probably at least 10 years ago. So I think the
Mm,
fact that I agree with you, the fact that tattoos are becoming more common and more
yeah. Mainstream.
yeah, more
Mm,
mainstream. It's a lot easier to have that, and they're not, like you said, frowned upon. And having facial
yeah.
hair is not like where I work now. It's great because they don't care if you have beards, they don't care if your ears are pierced, if you have,
Mm,
I think for the most part, I think facial piercings probably aren't like more than like a nose or ears probably is okay. But you
mm,
can have beards, you can have tattoos, they don't care as long as
yeah.
you do your work, which is
Right, right.
awesome.
That's in general the most important thing. Are you doing your work? Like my non-comic book job, my day job is in healthcare, and I don't have to hide my tattoos, but I choose to do it
Yeah,
because I'm interacting with patients all day long, and it's less of worried I might offend someone and more of a distraction because a lot of
yeah,
people are like, oh, tattoos, and they start having a conversation with me, which I wish I had time for. But it's like I got another patient behind you, man,
yeah.
and I hate to cut you off. So in order to get the day, running smoothly and staying on track and keeping
Yeah,
everyone's, appointments on time, I hide the sleeves and little. A lot of people at work don't even realize it, which is even a cooler effect, when
yeah,
people uh, forming their own personal opinions on you when they don't see your tattoos. Then they see them, and it's like,
yeah,
whoa, and it's like a don't judge the book by its cover type philosophy.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
All right. So comic book writing, you said you do that outside of your normal
yeah,
non-comic book job. What
right.
was it that originally got you into wanting to be a writer in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, I always naturally, I think was a writer. I loved when I was a kid and in grade school. I excelled in that area, but that's not something when you're a kid and in high school that is like a glamorous type thing, people want to excel in sports. They want to be on the basketball team. They want to be good at playing an instrument because they idolize athletes and rock stars. And no one has their favorite writer, hanging on a framed poster on their bedroom wall.
Yeah.
So I always had teachers telling me that I should, do something with it. But I'm like, do what with it? When you're a kid, it's like, what do you do? Write books? It's like you almost hate books when you're
Yeah.
in school because it's like it's pushed on you. Read more. Textbooks and things like that. They have such a negative connotation to them. But I always liked reading for my own personal pleasure. And when it came to having to write for an assignment in school, it didn't it wasn't hard. It came naturally, and sometimes I would get marked off for writing too much. I couldn't condense what I wanted to say in their parameters, their um, word limits, their page limits. Not always the case, but like I was saying, I didn't know what to do with them. Like, how do you achieve success writing? So I didn't do anything with it. I always just wrote for my own personal pleasure, jotted things down in composition books, typed something up in a Word file, and never showed it to anyone. Um, then about like 10 years ago, I took a chance and I started submitting to some magazines, short story type stuff.
Yeah.
Didn't get any response, any positive response back. Either got nothing back or just no's. I was like,
Yeah.
all right, this thing probably isn't for me. um and then about 5 years ago, I saw a YouTube interview with a comic book writer named Doug Wagner, who I really admire. And I asked him in the chat, it was a live interview, how does one become a comic book writer? And he said, the best advice that I ever got, he said, just make a comic book. I was like, oh, that's that's just too easy.
Yeah.
So I dusted off one of my short stories that I wrote, long form, and researched how to write a comic book script. Looked online, checked out some books from the library, and adapted that into the comic book script format. And then I had this like 24-page one shot, and I was like, well, now what do I do with it? Asked around, local community, online community, um, got some direction on how to hire an artist. So I hired an artist, gave him the script. He suggested a colorist and suggested a letterer, and someone suggested a printer. And one thing led to another, and I had this tangible item that came from a script that I wrote. And then I figured out how the streamline process works. Once I knew how the management side can be done, all that was left was me to write, and I figured that part out. So it kind of, one project led to another one, kind of like in a tattoo in a way. While when you're getting tattooed, you're already thinking of your next one. I I wrote that first comic book, and I was already thinking, had an idea for the next one and the next one. So that's why I had my first year or two, I had so many projects out because I already had these ideas.
Yeah.
The only thing that was stopping me was finances, and knowing the ins and outs of the operating side of it all. So that what leads me here today.
Nice. And
Yeah.
I'm a writer myself, and I've written quite a few short stories, so I'm kind of
Mhm.
experienced. So I can relate with what you're talking about, where
Yeah.
like in school where they're like write a 500 word paragraph on this thing, like, and
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh my god, 500 words. I'm like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? Like, I could
Yeah.
knock 500 words is nothing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so
I'm gonna get graded. I'm gonna get points taken off because I'm like not gonna
yeah.
be able to keep it to 500 words.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
getting the courage up to submit stuff out in the world is
Yeah.
tough. Like
It is, man.
I've only officially done it once, and I got a letter back saying that they weren't interested in that. was disappointing, but at
Yeah.
the same time also encouraging. I mean,
Right.
I guess it's not encouraging enough because I haven't tried again, but
Yeah.
but that's cool that you stuck with it and kind of kept going with it because yeah, I mean, I just talked about this yesterday with another person I was talking to where um they tried to submit short stories and it just wasn't working, so they just
Mhm.
switched from short stories, or not short stories, but they were writing RPG text, and they switched
Mhm.
from that to comic scripts. And that's where, I mentioned that I've had the most trouble is trying to switch from long form to script writing because
Yeah.
they've said that it's harder to do it the other way. And it's
Right.
super easy to go, from long form to scripting. That's the part I've always had trouble with. So that's really good advice. Go, research it because the
Mhm.
the best advice I've been giving is or that I've been given is there's no wrong way to write a script. And I mean,
Exactly.
there's a few things you can stick with that most
Mhm.
people stick with, but the best way to do it is just to do it.
Yeah.
So that's
Exactly. Just do it. And that's what Doug said, make one. And I was like,
yeah,
okay. And I learned by doing. I stumbled, I made mistakes. I still make mistakes to this day. But I'm making less mistakes every time I do it, or I'm making a new mistake that I never got to before because I just haven't got that to that point yet. And I had to learn that at that time. So yeah, this industry, you don't make it without making mistakes. It's impossible.
that's fair.
So,
All right, so when you're coming up with the ideas for stuff that you're writing,
mhm.
what inspires your ideas, or where do you pull your ideas from?
Oh man, they come from all kinds of different direction. Sometimes it comes from, just listening to a song. Sometimes I'll be thinking of an idea while watching a movie. I'm like, you know, kind of I'm watching this movie and I'm like, oh, I like the idea, but what if it happened this way instead? And I kind of like retool it
Yeah.
in my own head. Like I was watching uh, Oppenheimer the other
Mm.
day at the movie theater, and I probably spent the majority of those 3 hours coming up with my own, scientist, comic book, fantasy thing. Uh,
Nice.
not saying anything bad about that movie; it was
Oh
great.
yeah, yeah.
But there were some parts where I was like, I can go into my own little brain for
Yeah.
now and wait for Christopher Nolan to pull me back in. Um, but yeah, it comes from many different things. I tell people that ask me about writer's block, if you're getting writer's block, then that means you just need to be inspired. So stop writing and read something, watch something, listen to something, however long that takes, because um, you know being a writer doesn't mean always writing. That's not what you have to do to be a writer.
Yeah.
Um, it never hurts supporting another creator in your endeavors to be a creator. So I often take pauses in my own productive writing to read, listen, watch. That in my Substack, I typically try to hit those things. I mentioned, one of my projects, and then what else am I looking at? I don't want it to always be about me.
Yeah.
What movies have I watched? What TV shows have I watched? What comic books have I read? Who am I? What other projects outside of my own am I supporting and I'm interested in? That travels a lot further than just talking about yourself all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I like that. That's
thank you.
for pulling ideas, just because um you're inspired by an idea doesn't mean that it necessarily is a bad idea.
Right.
And definitely grabbing those ideas that may sound weird, or if you were to like take it and say, I could do it this way, doesn't necessarily mean the way is bad. Like for your example, Oppenheimer, because
Mm,
you found a way to make it better doesn't mean necessarily that one's a bad idea. Just and that's
right.
where a lot of the good ideas come from is um you take an idea that already exists and you kind of put your own twist on it.
Yeah.
Like and I've mentioned this before in other interviews that I was reading one of Felicia Day's books about
Mm,
creativity, and she had mentioned something about a dinosaur in a tuxedo, and
mm,
I was like, that sounds so stupid.
right.
She's like, just weird things like that help trigger your writer's block and get rid of it, because writer's block is something I've had an issue with, and I'm sure all writers have had an issue
Yeah.
with. But then I thought about it and I'm like, if I don't be so critical of this, dinosaur in a tuxedo, I'm like, what
Mm.
if you were to take like James Bond and switch out James Bond with a dinosaur? So you've got double
Yeah.
Dino. So I was
Yeah, Double O Dino.
that's that's a cool
I'm
idea
stealing
that
that right now. I'll go grab my pen and paper.
that's an idea I've kind of been tooling with that I thought was kind of
Yeah.
interesting. So it's you just kind of just let your brain go,
Mm.
and even if you think an idea is dumb, it might end up being something that's really fun if you just
Right.
kind of just take the inner editor out, because the inner editor is sometimes going to kill the best idea.
Of course. Yeah. Don't edit your don't edit your first draft yourself. Just go into it, spill it all out. Just know that it's your first draft. Come up with the craziest ideas, and then go back in your second, third draft, clean it up. But yeah, get those ideas out of your head, because you don't waste anything. That's something
Yeah,
you never know what could be awesome. You could take any like movie, comic book, and break it down to the very bare bones. And the best, most successful ones, if you break it down to just the log line, could sound really stupid. And on the flip side, some of the worst movies, worst comic books, you break it down just the log line, it could have been awesome. You know,
yeah,
you know, at one point someone thought it was awesome, and they invested that much time to it. So um, maybe just lost itself on the way there, or it
yeah,
gained just the right amount of fuel to make it better from that point. So you never know.
yeah. Because sometimes you'll take an idea for a story, and I'm sure this happened to you, where you take what you want the story to be and you start writing it, and then the story takes you in a completely different direction than what you thought, and
Absolutely.
sometimes it ends up being even better.
Yeah. 100%.
All right, well, so you've got an awesome shirt that displays your most recent comic book, Spillblood.
Yes.
It's on Kickstarter right now. It's killing it right now.
Yeah.
um
Thank you.
for people that aren't familiar with it,
Mhm.
what's a synopsis to how would you sell it to the people that are listening right now that may not have heard of it?
Yeah, I sell it as I tell people it's a 36-page one shot in black, white, and red. And it's about this haunted priest who listens to people in his confessional booth by day, and then at night he turns into something else, and he goes out there and seeks vengeance on the worst sins that he heard. So essentially cutting the snake off at the head. He doesn't necessarily kill those sinners that he heard, but he goes to the places where they were sinning, and wipes those places off the face of the earth, because he feels like heaven and hell aren't doing their job, and while he's on earth, he's going to do what those places can't do. So it's dark, it's heavy religious undertones, or not even undertones, but has a very cool noir style to it. I liked it. Someone compared it to the Grendel from those '90s Dark Horse days. It's
Okay.
got some Punisher vibes, some Hellboy vibes, some Daredevil vibes, Ghost Rider, um, and yeah, it's got killer artwork by Stefano Carticelli, which is this is our fourth one shot together, so we know how to work together. And it's just going to be a really cool like a heavy metal one shot. I think a lot of people who like things a little bit on the darker side, like the grindhouse type side, are really gonna dig.
Nice. So, how is this Kickstarter performing compared to maybe other Kickstarters that you've done in the past?
Well, so far, this is the highest dollar amount funded Kickstarter I've run out of. I think this is my 11th Kickstarter,
Oh,
with
nice.
10 of them being successful. Um, and not the highest backed yet, but we still got about 5 days left. So we could get there. But yeah, it's definitely we were funded within 28 hours. Now we're 200% there. We doubled our funding goal, and we unlocked a lot of great stuff. Starting to run out of ideas for the stretch goals, which is a good problem to have. I
Yeah.
mean, the basic reward tier, the $5 digital reward, gets you not just Spillblood, 36-page PDF of Spillblood, but now we've added two other comic books written by me and drawn by Stefano Cardacelli. So that $5 reward is actually giving you 75% of the comic books that him and I have worked on together. So
Wow,
about 84 pages of comic books for a $5 reward tier. I mean, uh, we're not trying to, make $1 million off this campaign. We're trying to get what we need to make it, and then add as much extra value as possible to the pledges.
that's awesome.
No, thank you.
Now, I was looking at the pages and they look amazing.
No,
Um,
thank you.
what was your inspiration of just going with just white, black, and red?
Yeah, well, the first image that I saw of Spillblood was this very black and red pinup that Stefano sent me, and he just sent me the image. He goes, Jonathan, I made this. I don't know what it is, but I want to make a comic book off of this. I was like, oh, all right. um, and so I looked at the image and I formed, I was brainstorming and made the synopsis from what I saw, and he really liked it. And then we talked about the style of the artwork, and the other three books we did together. He always did it traditionally with watercolors. Um, and we thought about doing that again, but I really liked that pinup he sent me was digital. And I was like, I mean, I really like this look. Let's do it this way throughout, let's do something different, but
Yeah,
why, just repeat the same thing and not change it up. I think we got something there. Um, and it always helps doing things digital just for timing purposes too. Um, a lot of great things can come out from you know digital artwork when done right.
yeah,
So yeah, that's where we landed it that way. We're just like, let's keep this black, white, and red. A lot of classic books have done well with that.
yeah,
Sin City, very, few colors, and it's mostly black, white. Sometimes, you have that yellow in there here and there. But when you see it, it's very striking. So I think it really lends the black, white, and red really lends to the theme of the comic book, the style of it, the identity that we're trying to give it, which is that it's this, it would fit in on, the uh, uh in that an 80s 1980s video rental store in that horror section where the ones that you didn't see ever come to the theater, but like
yeah,
you've heard your friends talk about that one. That's like the hidden cool one. um that's kind of the vibes we really wanted to give with this one.
yeah. Especially with that Brian Silverback's cover.
Oh yeah.
Good
Oh
Lord.
man. Yeah, Brian's so talented.
Yeah,
He's no stranger to my books. He's done a ton of covers for me. Him and I go way back. Yeah, very talented guy. So happy that he gifted us that cover.
that's cool.
Didn't I didn't ask him, didn't commission him. He didn't want money for it. He just said, "Man, just put it in people's hands." So we didn't even make it a stretch goal. We just said, "All right." We just put it out there, $9 add-on if you want it. So,
That's
and
cool.
it received very well. So super cool of Brian to do that. Shout out to
Yeah,
him. He got nominated for best cover artist in the Ringos this year. So hope fingers crossed that he wins.
yeah, for
It'll be
sure.
well deserved.
Yeah, for sure. He's an incredible artist.
Yeah.
Now, you said this one is a one shot. Um,
Mhm.
do you have plans to do other books in this universe? Do other books, with this particular character, or do you just plan on just having just this one?
No, I'm open for another one. I would love to, if things go well, do at least maybe like a trilogy of one shots.
Okay.
Because I like this particular comic. It has basically told in like three vignettes. So I would like to flesh out the character and history a little bit more in like a second one shot. And yeah, since it's being received very well, I think it justifies us doing at least another one and seeing if that one goes as well too. It couldn't hurt. So I'll have
Yeah,
to
for
let
sure.
ask Stefano about it, see if he's up for it, but yeah, I would love to return to Spillblood and make more. I have to think of a lot more stretch goal rewards though. We did
Hey,
almost everything in this first campaign, so
hey, just throw it all against the wall and see what goes.
yeah, exactly. Yep, no one's
That's
gonna complain
awesome.
about free tchotchkes.
That's right. Can't
Nope.
complain about free stuff.
Yeah.
Now, after this Kickstarter's over, what's next for you? Like, do you have anything that you can talk about, that you can share with the listeners?
Yeah, there's a limited amount of stuff I can talk about.
Okay.
I do have I'm looking at my dry erase board that's behind my laptop which has
Mhm.
like my projects and plans. So
Yeah.
Quicksand, my book with Scout Comics is will be coming out. Issue one's already out. Issue two comes out August 23rd. Three, four, and five will follow suit. I also have Capable, which is out in stores. There's been a big delay between issues one and two. Issue one is already out. Issue two should be in previews next month, from what I've been told by the publisher. That's a
Nice.
7 issue miniseries, so that'll be going on through the rest of the year and into 2024. Let's see. I have a passion project that I'm getting the first issue all one and done. Hopefully, pitching that to like big indie publishers to get like that next step up. Uh, my wife and I are working on a one shot. My wife is Francesca Fantini, super talented artist. She's done Stake at Scout, Artemis and the Assassin at Aftershock.
Nice.
We just signed a contract this weekend for our one shot to come out with a publisher. So hopefully that'll be in stores most likely beginning of 2024. So look for announcement for that.
That's
And
awesome.
then I'm starting. I got artwork done for the first issue of a new mini series, which is another all ages story. I did an all ages one shot with Stefano called Space Cadet, but I want to do a mini series now. And I got artwork done for the first one, getting the colors and letters done on that one to pitch to the very few publishers that do all ages stories. So
Yeah.
um, maybe one of those might land on Kickstarter first for funding purposes. But besides that, also publishing to some, I mean, pitching to publishers on a daily basis, the ones that I've been invited to pitch to. It's going back to getting the rejection letters and emails. It's tough. I think 99% of the stuff I put out there gets rejected, so it's a hard pill to swallow all the time, but
Yeah.
can't hurt to try.
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna get the same kind of answer you get if you don't try that if you do try. So,
Exactly. Yep. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. That's what I
yep,
say.
exactly.
Yep.
And I guess that kind of rolls into my last question for you.
Mm.
What's some advice that you give to up and coming creators or creators that just haven't, you know, started doing their thing yet that want to?
Oh man, the one thing, my advice is something that I've been trying to take myself and focus on myself lately, and that's growing your circle. You could be the most talented person, write the most ingenious script, have the best comic book, but if you don't have a big enough circle, no one's going to see it. Um, and that's an unfortunate fact. Um, I've had many comic books published over the years. Recount was a huge success. I get told all the time, and I'm saying this as humble as possible. I love your comic books, blah blah blah. But Spillblood has just barely over 200 backers. That's a very small number compared to what you need to have successfully in the mainstream market and for like
Yeah,
direct market sales. If Spider-Man only had 200 people buying it, it would not remain on the shelf.
yeah,
So how do you grow your circle? How do you grow your network? You can only do that by following other people. You have to follow other people. You have to engage with other people, and it can be very hard to do with when you're introverted, like myself. when you're self-reliant, like I can be sometimes, but got to put yourself out there, and you got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's the like mantra that I tell myself. If something feels uncomfortable, probably means I probably need to do it. I mean, it probably feels uncomfortable because I don't want to do it, but I need
Yeah.
to. This is the 13th interview number 13 out of 15 I have scheduled for the 30 days that Spillblood is on Kickstarter.
Oh wow.
It's would I like to avoid doing interviews? Absolutely, but I got to do them, and I
Yeah.
get better at them every time I do them. So like that, get put yourself out there. Go to comic book stores, promote yourself, be your biggest advocate, because even when you're signed with a publisher, you're still going to have to be your biggest advocate. No one's going to promote you more than you're promoting yourself. So
Yeah.
if you're promoting yourself very little, everyone else is going to promote you very little. So until you can get into uh, awesome big leagues where the uh, big companies have marketing departments that pay people to do all that stuff for you, you need to get better at that, because you're going to go through all that blood, sweat, and tears to make that product, and it's going to land on very few people. So grow your network, and when you figure out how to do it, let me know, because that's what I'm trying to do too.
Yeah. I mean, and that's, like you said, you should definitely be your biggest fan because
Mhm.
if people see that you're not really promoting yourself, they're like, well, why do I want to invest in this guy if he doesn't even
Right.
care about his own thing? And they always say, it's really bad to talk about yourself, but I would imagine in this line of work, yeah, you definitely need to talk about yourself because if you don't,
Yeah.
who else is going to?
100%. My all my social media platforms pretty much turned into Spillblood accounts for the past, but starting like 3 weeks before the campaign went live.
Yeah,
So like, and I'm sure it hurt some of my, my follow, some, I'm sure people have unfollowed me, unfriended me, because they got sick of, spill blood, spill blood, spill blood. But, you know, uh, those are the people I don't need in my circle. And you
yeah,
have to weed those people out in these type of moments. You'll find out who the real ones are when you're doing the hardest work. Um, and that's just how the case goes. So, don't be brokenhearted if that first Kickstarter doesn't get funded, or if you're pitching to publishers and they're all saying no, man, just prove them wrong. But you can only do that by continue to doing it, though. You to continue to
yeah,
do it. um, you'll prove them right if you stop.
yeah. And, it's definitely a lot harder to do this kind of thing if you have a small circle, like you said. And I
Yeah.
know, and also being introverted, which is something I can definitely relate to.
Mhm.
Um, because I've kept a very small circle for a long time because I'm introverted, and
Yeah.
that circle kind of fell apart. And
Mhm.
I'm kind of rebuilding that circle too, and I've recently kind of grown it bigger than it's ever been, and it's great. And I'm just trying to grow it bigger. So, and the easier part of, and this seems to be a common thread with a lot of creators I've talked to, is it's hard to do stuff by yourself. So you need to find stuff or you need to find people that are doing stuff, not necessarily even similar to you, but just that are out there doing stuff.
Yep.
Because without that support system, it's real lonely to just, to be a writer and not have anybody supporting you, or even have anyone that's like, yeah, go and write because that's your thing and you like doing that thing. So go do your
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully we live in the age of the internet where we can have that support all the time. I can't
Yeah.
imagine what it was just, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
People must have been even more isolated, even if they wanted to be, more extroverted.
Yeah.
So, pound the pavement, go to your local comic book stores, make friends with those people, support them. That's the biggest thing. I keep on telling people, support other people that, you know, so people will support you. You want people to share your post, you need to be sharing other people's posts. You want people to
Exactly.
back your campaign, you better be backing other people's campaigns. That's just how it goes. There's
Yeah.
no way you can do this in your own personal silo.
Oh yeah.
Very few people can write, draw, letter, print, mail, distribute their comic book 100% on their own and have it be successful. Can it be done? Absolutely. Is it going to be successful? I don't know. I guess it all depends on what your idea of success is too. So,
Yeah, and like you said, other people, you have to support other people if you want people to support you. And I know that's a big issue that I've seen where, you'll put out something and you expect all these people to back it or share it or whatever, but then they
right,
don't return the same favor to you. Um,
exactly.
or you don't return the favor to them because
Right,
that's you can't expect people to share your stuff without sharing their stuff too. And
right.
it's really obnoxious, the people who will only talk to you when they have stuff going on. Like
Yes.
people who will jump in your DMs, you're like, hey, I have this Kickstarter, you should back my Kickstarter. But it's like,
Mm,
if you're only talking to me because you need me to back your or share your
yeah.
Kickstarter, that's the entirely wrong way to do it. Like
Yep.
you need to support other people if you want them to support you. That's
Right.
incredible advice. And like you had said before with being uncomfortable, that's
Mm,
definitely something that you need to get more comfortable with.
right.
For example, doing video interviews like this.
Mm,
I used to be completely uncomfortable with doing video interviews,
sure.
but our wonderful editor Jackie, he said, you just do it. It doesn't
Yep.
matter. If you once you do the first one, it's gonna suck. And that's
Mm,
okay because every time you do the first one, it's going to suck. So you need to just get out there and just do it. And then eventually it'll just be second nature.
yep. Like going back to the Kickstarter stuff, my very first one failed, and then I learned from that failure, backed a lot more Kickstarters, took the good and bad from what I saw from those creators putting that stuff out, and relaunched, and that one got funded in the first day. It was a very low funding goal, but I got funded. I was able to make up the cost of what I put into it, was able to fulfill the campaign and, snowball after that. So I wouldn't have been able to done it if I didn't fail before. So,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
All right. Well, I don't want to take any more of your time. So let's give you some chance to plug yourself. Where can we find the Kickstarter? Where can we keep up with you on social media for the new stuff that's coming out?
The easiest way on my website, jonathanhedrickcomics.com. That's a good hub for everything else. If you go there right now, it'll have a pop-up that'll take you to the Kickstarter for Spillblood. And then if you stay on my website, I have links to all my social media platforms. I have uh, where my next signings are going to be. I have a web store if you want to purchase something directly from me. I have links to my publishers' websites to if you want to go on there and get a quick link to go straight to Black Box and buy Dream Master, my comic book with them, or links to Scout to buy Recount or Quicksand or Space Cadet. Um, you can sign up for my Substack there. So I just make it simple for everyone. JonathanHedrickComics.com, and then everything can go. It's Grand Central. You can go anywhere
Works.
from there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so for us, you can find this interview when it's posted, all sorts of other reviews, interviews, and stuff in the world of pop culture and geekdom on geek-network.com. That's our website. Geeks AZ on Instagram and Twitter, Geek Network on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram at CD is weird. The music for the show is by Polygon Horizon. My friends in that band. It's a great band. Go check them out on Bandcamp. Uh, the logos for the show are done by my friends Chris Chandler and Mike Belcher. They're also comic creators. You can go find them on Instagram and Twitter as well. And if you like the show, please leave a review and tell your friends. Word of mouth is our friend. And remember, kids, to embrace the things that fuel your weird and always geek responsibly. Jonathan, thanks so much for being here today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Chris. I appreciate it.